Hey, what's up, Blazer fans? Welcome to We Have a Take the What podcast. I am Tara Bowen Biggs, joined as always by Rose Harding. Hello, Rose.
Hello, Tara. How are you doing today?
It is such a good time to be a Blazer fan right now. At least I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but for me, I am loving being a Blazer fan right now. How about you?
Yeah, same. I mean, it also I'm in a good mood because the sun has been out so much this week and it's been pretty dry, but also winning.
Yeah.
Winning feels really good.
Yeah, against the Lakers, it's always like a little extra, pep in our step the day after a Lakers victory. They have another one this afternoon or this evening. They're going to play Sacramento. We'll see how that goes. But like one of the things for me that I'm loving about like the Blazers right now is they're winning the games they should for the
Yeah.
most part. Like the Golden State one, we can argue about that, whether or not they should have won that. Just for my heart, they should have won that. But like on paper, technically, the Golden Warriors have more wins. But like in the past, when they were building, they're still building. But in the past, when they couldn't even beat teams that had worse records, that was more deflating to me than when they can't beat a team that has a better record.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I'll say like the going into yesterday's game, the Laker game, I immediately recalled that game we blew against the Lakers
Mm.
earlier in the season where everybody felt like we should have won that game. And then we didn't. And then I felt like game, I was like, well, we don't have Denny, which is kind of not great, but we are like honestly like a better team. Like when I look at that team, I'm like, okay, LeBron's trying to will a win here. There's no Austin Reeves here. DeAndre Ayton's out. Like they're getting a ton of minutes from a guy in a headband that I've never seen before in the NBA. Like,
Timmy?
yeah, Timmy.
Little
It was
Timmy's
actually so
falling down the well. That's what I kept thinking every time they would say his name.
It was just so funny because I saw him come in the first half and I'm like, who are you? Like, you look like you're from the G League. Why are you here? And then later, when he checked back in the second half, Calabro was like, his name is Timmy. He's a professional basketball player, like reassuring us that this guy is really here in the NBA. And I was like, okay, well, at least I'm not the only one who's wondering about this guy.
I feel like just due to our emotional investment, that games against the Lakers are just kind of like a crapshoot in terms of like how they turn out and what they mean. The win that made me feel good this week was the one against Atlanta. Because,
Yeah.
like, pretty much exactly in the same place win losses position in, the conference. And honestly, the first half of that game, I was like, okay, maybe this isn't gonna like they just didn't seem like they were playing with the same pep as they had
Mhm.
been. But then in the second half, when they came out and as I literally thought to myself, "Oh, this feels like a Billups game." It felt like one of those games where everybody was just sort of like somewhere else and not really like connected, and like it was like, okay, it's just gonna be one of those nights. But something happened, and they put it together in the second half, and then they ended up like kind of running away with it in the fourth. And I was like, this feels so good.
Yeah, and to be able to do it without Denny is
Yeah.
huge because quite frankly, like last year when Denny wouldn't play, you'd be like, ugh, this is not good looking basketball. It's not aesthetically pleasing. You don't really know what they were going for. And this time they were able to like put something together that looked like a system even without him.
Yeah, I distinctly remember us talking about it last year because what we said was that when Tumani was out, the defense fell apart, and when Denny was out, everything fell apart. And so it was going to
Mhm.
be an opportunity to see how far they had come in such a situation. Well, and also Jrue returned,
Yeah.
and I was and am fully prepared for as these guys come back into the rotation for a learning curve to be present, but their learning curve this year, it just seems so much smoother than it has in the past.
Yeah, it doesn't have to come with embarrassing 60-point losses. You know, like they're in games, even when they lose games, they're in games toward the end which like think about how many games we saw in the previous couple of seasons where by the time you get to the fourth, there's, the game has been decided more or less, you know? Like we
Hmm.
saw a lot, like we saw more garbage minutes and, we had fewer opportunities to try to like learn how to play close games. And I feel like that's maybe the most important thing that this team is learning now is how you play close games. Because at the beginning of the season, they were still in a little bit of a bad habit of blowing some of those games. And now we're seeing them like, I don't know, able to claw back into games that maybe are getting a little bit away from them or closing the door when they should be able to close the door on an opponent. Like I can't even remember how many games that I have thought that they should have blown teams out. Um, and then them let them back in the game.
The worst is always when you have a big lead and then they have to put the starters back in.
Oh God, I hate it. I know. And you're like, those guys already have like the heat packs on their backs. They're already like got their clothes back
Yeah.
on. Like they're not planning on going back in. Oh, just
Yeah.
kidding.
Well, and also the interesting thing for the last month or so is that you can't be like, well, okay, time to put the end of the bench in because like the end of the bench is in and they're
Hmm.
helping win games now.
That's right. Wop Reith, my guy Wop Reith is out here helping to win games, getting huge blocks in the corner. I remember actually like, people were starting to kind of groan about him when he was in that game, and then he came up and he blocked two shots, two threes, and people were like, "Never mind, he's great, it's fine."
That was that again, that was the Atlanta game that we're talking about. And leaving that game was so fun because I was walking in front of a family with some young kids who were probably like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in that range, 8, 9, like old enough to like know like who the players were and kind of know what was going on. But as we were walking out, they were like, Duop Reed was so good, and Ryan Rupert was so good, and Caleb Love was so good. And it was just, I don't know, it just made my heart swell to like have young kids knowing who these end of the bench guys were, having these quote unquote end of the bench guys be an important part of a run that put them over the top. I don't know. It was just things are feeling good in Rip City right now.
I mean, speaking for my own child, like she saw last year Scoot hit that game winner in the Utah Jazz game the day after Christmas, and him like get down on the floor and shake his tongue at us. And like that was like, you're never gonna convince her that Scoot Henderson isn't the best player in the world after that. Like she saw it live. That's what she's going to be remembering. And so I don't even think it matters what happens to the rest of Scoot's career. He's one of the best guys to ever play basketball to her.
Oh, I can't wait until we get to see him again. Let's start into like our planned agenda.
Yes.
You and I both had some things that we were gonna talk about that we sort of observed, and then we got some great responses from the takers about things that they're gonna be looking for as the second half of the season commences. But before we logged on, you and I were just talking about Scoot. And you put out on Blue Sky the other day how you think about Scoot coming back at least once a day. And I also think about that at least once a day. What is it for you that you're thinking about it in terms of Scoot's return?
I mean, besides everything, um, like there's sometimes in games where I am watching the team play and struggle a little bit because, when you're shorthanded, you struggle sometimes. And I go, oh, wouldn't Scoot be great here? Scoot would be so helpful here because like and also I don't know as you said before we got on the air, I don't know what kind of player Scoot is today, but I know what kind of player he looked like last year versus what he looked like the year before. And there are lots of things that I look forward to seeing whether those things have progressed even further. Like we always knew he had elite speed. Last year we started to see him kind of use elite speed a little bit more tactically, where he would not just be running at a full sprint the whole game, but he would turn it on and turn it off in order to like create better opportunities for his team. We saw him like be a really improved catch and shoot three guy, which was amazing because in the previous seasons, I think that you and I weren't even really sure what kind of shots he might be looking for. Um, And then also just like ball security. Like you know that you can rely on someone who plays point guard to have just more ball security and more like a good feel for when to push and when to like kind of like dial it back. Um but you know, it's not that hard to imagine how many opportunities there are where you could be like, "Oh, we could really use Scoot here," because quite frankly, a lot of times I'm like, we could really use a ball handler here. Like I said last year, I don't want to see Tumani dribble more than like 4 or 5 dribbles, and then I want somebody else to handle it. And if he's got it for like dribble 7, 8, 9, I'm like, get it out of there. Let somebody else have it.
Um, for me with Scoot, it's kind of like the second half of what you were saying is I'm want having seen the leap that Shaedon has making, and I want to talk a lot more about Shaedon because we've like surprisingly not talked about him that much, I don't think this season. But so just being ready to see what that leap looks like, but also Scoot has had Jrue Holiday, a person who I think he could be a lot like when we see him at his full capacity, and Damian Lillard, both of these guys in his ear talking and watching the game, sitting next to them for like this whole time. And I would love to see how much of that rubbed off on him, or like if it did, I imagine like it could only be a good thing to have those two, giving you their impressions of what's happening live in front of you. So yeah, I can't wait to see all that. The other thing is
Yeah, I mean,
Blazers. Sorry, did you cut out? Did I cut out?
sorry, what?
Oh, I think we cut out a little
You
bit.
cut out and I wasn't sure. I'm like, do you still have a thought? Okay.
Um, I was just gonna say that so we haven't heard anything from the Blazers about Scoot's return. And the last time you and I had that discussion on this very podcast, we very quickly after that, not that I'm taking credit for it, it's just that it was noticed. We got an update as maybe not as helpful as it was. They at least said something, but what I'm getting at is we're beyond the we'll check in again time. I don't even know if they promised us they were going to check in about him, but it's time for us to get an update, even if it's just he's not ready yet. We'll circle back in 2 weeks. Give us something, please.
Yeah, I if I'm thinking about Scoot coming back at least once every day, like I need something when they say that they're going to reevaluate him. I need to hear about him instead of just think about it every day and then wonder what's happening. And just like I would love to just have an idea of when we might see Scoot. Like,
Mhm.
you know, I think that you and I both, after we heard about his injury at the beginning of the season, didn't expect to see him for several months. But like, we're now getting onto the period of time where I'm like, I expected that maybe we might be able to see him soon, but I have no idea based on what the organization is signaling, whether that's like imminently or in like 2 months. Like, they haven't said anything. And I don't know. Like I'll just say like if the powers that be are listening, please tell me about Scoot because I think about him every day. I hope you're thinking about him every day. We want to know what's going on with him so that we can look forward to his return.
Yeah, good point. Because maybe they just forgot about him. And, we're here to remind you, please let us know what is going on with Scoot, because I'm getting to the point where like I was expecting January, and that was hard, but I was like, okay, January. But now January is we're halfway through January. Now it's starting to look at, oh, okay, they'll just wait until after the All-Star break. And then if it's after the All-Star break, like what's the point? What like save him the wear and tear, I guess, and call it a wash for the year. I don't know. Obviously, I don't want that to happen. But like just tell I'm gonna start thinking that if I don't hear from them pretty soon. Is that what you want fans thinking? I don't know.
We are not going to be like the Lakers. We are not going to leave Jake LaRavia laying on the ground forever alone with nobody to pick him up and nobody checking on him for like infinity amount of time.
That was so awful in that game. Like, he fell down and it looked bad when he fell down, and then they kept playing, which I like understand, like finish the play or whatever, but then they like kept playing and he just laid down there. And then when he did go off, they like spent all this time worrying about Marcus Smart, and he's just like sitting there on the bench in pain. Like, does anybody care about Jake LaRavia? We were thinking about you, Jake. I hope he's doing okay.
I didn't even see any of his teammates run down and help pick him up when the whistle blew. Because usually you see like
Yes,
teammates come down and pick up their teammate.
somebody.
Anybody, anybody. I was so sad because he looked uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And I then everybody was like, "Oh, Marcus Smart. Oh, Marcus Smart." Meh. I'm like, "Well, what about Jake LaRavia who was injured like on like 3 plays ago?"
I know. Poor guy. But this is not a Lakers podcast.
No.
Um,
This is just us saying we don't want to go down that road of forgetting about guys on our team, and we want to make sure we check in on our injured guys because we all care about him and we are, you know, psychologically trying to pick him up.
yes, and we'd like to think, and we feel like our guys would have all taken care of their teammate in that
Yes.
situation. So let's talk about some of the things that are on our mind that we've noticed in the first half of the season. Um, I'll go first because I sort of alluded to it earlier. I want to talk
Yeah.
about Shaedon. I f-
Yeah, let's talk about
does it
Shaedon.
feel like we've talked about Shaedon very much this year, except for me saying no, don't put him in the dunk contest? Have we really talked about him that much?
No, I mean we did a little bit at the beginning of the season, I think because he had signed that new contract.
Hmm.
But I will say like he had kind of a slow start and then he got injured and now he's been back. And he's been like since he's been back, we haven't really talked about him, and I think that's when he's really shined. So
Hmm.
I feel like there's a lot to say about his game.
Yeah, I feel like so the thing with Shaedon that I wanted to talk about is like my eyes are telling me something exciting is going on with Shaedon Sharpe. I am watching him and I'm going, Shaedon is making an impact on the game. Like last year, maybe even possibly early in the season, although I'm not really sure. But I do remember like last year there were times where I was like, oh, I didn't even really notice that he was on the floor unless he was like doing a dunk. Um, and this year it's like I notice Shaedon is on the floor. Part of the thing that I'm noticing is that because especially with Denny out, he is getting coverage. Like
Mhm.
he is now if he's probably not the top of the scouting report because that's Denny, but the other teams are really focusing on him. He is not functioning in a way that he was before where he could just he's still dribbling the ball 15 times and getting his shot off, but he's doing it now with like at least two defenders on him a lot of the time, sometimes even more. He's driving into traffic where he's got a wall of people waiting for him and he's doing it anyway. So when I was observing this, I was like, I bet you I'm gonna. I went to go like look at his statistics, and I was like, I bet you I'm gonna see like I was assuming I was gonna see like a big leap in his like counting stats, and in fact, his stats are like incredibly consistent, like
Mhm.
compared to like his career averages. And I was like, okay, well, the 30 per 36 minutes, that surely will tell a different story. Same thing, so consistent. So just the thing that I've noticed about Shaedon is that even with the increased coverage and more pressure coming at him all the time, every game, especially now with Denny out, he is still able to consistently perform. And to me, that was huge. That was like a big revelation and a very welcome revelation. Because at the beginning of the season, I like wasn't sure. I was like, this is kind of like, you got to show us, Shaedon. And to me, he's shown me. I see the star potential in him that other people have been saying, and I was like trying to like be cautious about, but I'm
Mhm.
there. I see it. I'm so excited.
I don't know if this is like I don't know how much of this is something that was like organic or how much of it was intentional, but I feel like the team is better at getting him the ball than they were in the past. Um, like there were definitely times last season where I'd be like he would disappear and he wouldn't touch the ball for like a whole shift, it would seem like. And I'd kind of like you, I would kind of forget he was on the floor. And the reason to have Shaedon on the floor is to score or to create scoring opportunities. Um, but this year, like I've noticed when he's on the floor with Denny, they do some trading off of like who's going to hold the ball for different possessions. I've noticed that people more look to him to get him the ball early in the shot clock rather than like late or mid shot clock, when whatever it is they were trying to do is transpiring. And I feel like I see more trust in him, and I also see more intention around like Denny, or excuse me, around Shaedon having the ball in his hands, as a compliment to Denny because Denny just I mean, he can do it and he has been doing it and he's been getting better at it, but like he's still we need other looks, especially when there's no point guards. Granted, Jrue is back now and um we have more options for that, but I just see Shaedon touching the ball more. He's more present in the offense than he was sometimes last season. And if that was Thiago Splitter's doing, like excellent. If that was just something that the team organically worked toward, you know, that's also great. Like I don't really know like why it happened, but um I just remember like we would go like 5 minutes and like Shaedon wouldn't even touch the ball and you'd be like, where has he been? And he's just been like standing in a corner somewhere. And this year it's completely different.
Yeah, and he one of the delightful things that I've noticed just in the last couple weeks is he's now throwing lobs. I mean,
Not just catching them.
yeah, he's throwing them and it's like, "Oh my God, that's so exciting." Yeah, I am just thrilled with this development that I've observed.
I want to add one more thing about Shaedon since we're noticing Shaedon's game improvements. Shaedon has a very good nose for poke steals.
Oh, yes.
This gentleman out here, I don't know how good his defense is. I'm totally like I know that we talked about him improving on defense. I don't know how good he is like as like a straight up defender, but in terms of poke steals, Shaedon is out here poking like he's Kawhi Leonard. And he doesn't have the same length, but he's out here really like putting the heat on people, getting timely steals and able to like keep possession of them and like and get the ball in transition. Like it's been really exciting.
Shaedon is the defensive playmaker who Matisse Thybulle is. I mean, I don't know if
Mm,
he's that good yet. I mean, I think Matisse has a bigger bag in terms of being a defensive playmaker,
yeah.
but Shaedon has certainly stepped into that as as a part of his regular, I already said bag, but like as part of his, like what he does is
Yeah.
that he's a defensive playmaker because everybody knows when Shaedon gets those steals and they are off and running, there's a really good chance that they are scoring. And
Hmm.
that's something that was like when Matisse Thybulle joined the team, it was like, oh, that's cool. I don't even know what that is. I haven't seen it in so long. So Matisse opened my eyes to what it is. And like he does it in so many, he does it from behind. I don't know that we've seen Shaedon do it from behind as much as just getting into the lane. Um, but the blueprint is there from Matisse, and I love that Shaedon appears to be following it.
Shaedon and Matisse have different methods, I think, because a lot of Matisse's like playmaking, defensive playmaking, I think, is through blocks. Um, Shaedon's don't feel like they're as often through blocks. Shaedon's are more like, you know, um, knowing when a guy is about to put the ball on the floor and drive a certain way, and he can poke his hand in right in there, right when that happens. He's really good at like figuring out when to stab at the ball. Um, Matisse's bag is more varied, as you said, but a lot of his defensive playmaking starts with blocks.
I mean, Shaedon could easily add that
Yeah,
to
for
his
sure.
repertoire. Because he's not a slouch on getting blocks, and with his athleticism, I think that is something that he could do. So
Yeah.
yeah, if he wants to play like he's playing now offensively and then just become some subset of what Matisse can do on defense, that's very exciting.
If Shaedon is cut, I think, from like the Matisse Thybulle cloth, perhaps as like a defender, and then we have like CD who's cut from more of the Tumani cloth,
Mhm.
which is both of those are great cloths to be cut from, to be clear.
What a luxury. I mean, just sit in that for a moment, Blazer fans.
I
We
know.
have
Like,
more than one type of defensive player on the team right now, and then they have people who are playing in their style.
oh my God. Like when people used to talk about how defense was fun and we were that team that only played offense, I was like, yeah, but scoring is so much more fun. Like I think those people are just telling themselves lies because they want to be happy watching their team win with a score of 88. Um, but no, it's fun and I really like two-way basketball, turns out.
Turns out. Okay, so what else are you observing?
I have been noticing that Caleb is starting to look a lot like Dame off-screen assists.
Oh, okay. Say
Like,
more.
well, so you know how like Dame used to come really hard off of the screen and then immediately shoot a three right after,
Hmm.
like a screen. Well, back in the day it would be like Nurkic or something, but um anyway, I see Caleb doing that a little bit now. And he shoots him a little bit deep sometimes, like Dame used to do it, and he gets it off really fast. And I'm not saying that they're the same guy or anything like that, but that style feels very familiar to me.
Hmm.
And I like was like thinking about how wonderful it must be for him to get uh coached a little bit by somebody whose game he's admired and maybe modeled his own after a little bit because it looks tighter than it did 3 weeks ago.
I love that observation. I haven't noticed that particular move of his being similar to Dame's, but the other day when he took a step back three, I was like, oh, that looks like Dame, but he's got a lot longer legs.
Yeah.
Like, because when when they do that step back three and their legs get like, I was like,
Yeah.
good Lord, Caleb has some long legs there.
Well, he's like what, like 3 inches taller than Dame probably.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, he's taking him with confidence and he's taking him quick. And I don't like, and he makes him in a pretty decent clip. So it's one of those things where I'm like, if he can keep doing that, like that'll feed families. That'll keep you in the league.
Yeah.
Especially on this team where we just really need guys to shoot the ball, turns
Hmm.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
He's such a fun addition and surprise this season.
I'm just really pleased to watch Caleb develop. There were times where I saw people complaining about him. There were times where he wasn't playing as well as he is now, but with a lot of reps now and a lot of minutes that he's been able to play and like learn some lessons in hard ways, he looks like an NBA guy and he looks like an NBA guy who has like a tool set that will keep him in the league if he continues to grow it.
Hmm. Yeah, I am dying a little bit inside to make this comparison. So I'm saying that right now. So if I catch on fire for saying these words, don't say you weren't warned. But his story reminds me a teeny little bit, more than a teeny little bit. Oh God, I can't believe I'm going to say this, of Gary Payton too.
Ew.
I know it's gross. But Gary Payton was older when he stepped into the league. He actually bounced. Let's remind ourselves how long GP2 was in the G League before he even made it. But he found the right place that could maximize what they needed of him. Caleb is more offensively oriented than Gary Payton. But Caleb knew that if he was going to find a place for himself in this league, especially as an older rookie coming in, that he was also going to have to be reliable defensively. And I feel like Gary Payton's success so much is dependent on the right fit and him noticing exactly which skills he needed to put into play to be a valuable asset to that one team. That's how it reminds me of Caleb, as Caleb was very is like perfect fit for what the team needs right now and able to recognize and lean into those things to maximize his potential. And it makes me sick that I just I'm poor I'm sure anyway. I'm sorry. Did our whole podcast just like do we need to fold now?
I mean, I think we have some redemption to be working on the rest of this episode. I'm going to give you a different comparison. The person who maybe I'm not saying his story reminds me of this exactly, but maybe the story that I'm trying to manifest for Caleb Love is that of a different Blazer, past Blazer, of Wes Matthews. Wes Matthews was also undrafted. And he had to work his way into the league. I mean, I think was before he was with us, he was with Utah. And he did get signed to like a modest contract to come to Portland. But like I don't know if anyone knew that he was going to contribute the way that he did. And he grew a lot. He played two ways. He was a good three-point shooter, not the best three-point shooter. He was reliable. He worked hard. And so my hope, I guess, is to manifest more of a Wes Matthews like career than maybe a Gary Payton 2 type career.
No, I like that comparison so much better. Although I don't think mine is inaccurate, but I like yours a lot better. Just in
I'm
terms
not
of
talking about in terms
Blazer
of
cuties.
accuracy.
One is a Blazer cutie and one hasn't ascended to that. Let's just did not ascend to that, let's just say.
That's right. Um, and I'll just say like I it just that one feels better on my heart. That's the
Mhm.
only I don't want to say it's more accurate. It just feels better on my heart.
No, I can't even believe I said that thought out loud, but you know what? You never know what you're gonna get.
It's true. It's true. But I think the important thing is that we both see a lot of promise with Caleb, and we hope that he can continue on this path because he could have a really great opportunity to be a contributing NBA player that helps a team win games. Who knows?
Yeah,
He could help a team win a championship.
and I guess the significant thing that we both recognized in it is like fit is important, but then his ability to see and like work on that fit and bring additional value is what's going to keep him around because some guys could be like a perfect fit for now or whatever, but I think taking it he's able to take it one step further to like it's not just fit anymore. It's not just because you're the guy that we needed at the time and you did really well.
Hmm.
It's like, oh no, you play the style and you like um you match with our vision of the future.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. I love that, and I love that for Caleb, and I'm looking forward to the day that he gets his full NBA contract because I still feel like that's going to happen this year. And if it didn't for some wild reason, somebody will
Hmm.
take a chance on Caleb Love.
Yeah.
Um, so good job, Caleb.
Also, just side note, his we were talking about this too also before we got on. We have some elite parents of Blazers on in the social media realm right now, and following his dad, Dennis Love, is really fun because he posts about Caleb all the time, and it is so sweet to see how excited he is for him. And I just highly recommend it if you just want to feel good uh Instagram account in your feed. Follow Caleb Love's dad.
Yeah, Dennis Love.
Yeah.
Also highly recommend Blake Wesley's mother,
Leslie Wesley.
Leslie Wesley.
Yes, I can't wait till we get to talk about Blake Wesley for a deep dive. Leslie
Yes. Oh
Wesley.
my God, yes. Leslie Wesley. And I mean, I think that this is just the benefit of having a young team,
Hmm.
honestly. Like their parents are more involved in their day to day than some of the guys who are like, in their 30s.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just really fun because it's nice to be reminded of who these guys are, like when they're not just playing basketball and that
Hmm.
they have like people cheering them on, people who invest in them all the time. Um, it's just nice to see that. Do you have any other favorite parents to shout out that you've
Oh,
noticed?
well, of course, Chris Murray's dad, Kenyon
Oh, yes.
Murray. He's fun. I mean, there's never gonna be another what was Malcolm Brogdon's dad's name? There's never gonna be another Judge Brogdon. Like he's kind of like the top tier.
Yeah.
Oh, also, the Blazers have a coach who actually posts. I was so
Yes.
excited this morning when Tiago posted. It was just like in a story, he put like Blazers win, and I was just like, "Oh my God, a coach who posts. That's so fun."
Yeah, and his wife posts.
Hmm.
They both post. And like, we saw that posts I think it was this week from Tiago's wife of like Tiago's daughter making Denny a get well soon card,
That's
which
so
is really
cute.
sweet.
So sweet.
I
All
love that
right.
we have a lot of parents. I also love that we have a lot of kids right now around the
Mhm.
team. Kids really, I think, like just add a level of purity that feels really good.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of kids on the team.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about like some individual performances. Another thing that I've observed that's sort of like a team-wide thing
Hmm.
is the number of field goal attempts they are taking. And it just it felt like they're like I was like, the pace at the beginning of the season was very fast, and that's just like, possessions per game, which don't always end up necessarily in a field goal attempt. Sometimes they end up in a turnover or whatever. But anyway, I was curious where the Blazers are in terms of the number of field goal attempts that they are actually making right now. So I went back
Hmm.
4 years, and so like to the 22-23 season, and so basically, what I walked away from it was that in the last 4 years, their field goal percentage has not improved at all. It's actually gone down. So their field goal their makes is not necessarily going up, but their attempts from the 22-23 season, they were getting off 85.4 attempts per game. They're up to 99.3 right now this season. That's like 14 more attempts per game
So
that
that's
they
like a lot of extra possessions.
that's a lot more. Yeah, and they are I don't know. I mean, it's duh when you watch the game. But
Yeah.
to have it like so confirmed like that, I was like, "Oh wow, they are yeah, they're letting it fly." And that's pretty fun.
Yeah. And it also says a lot about, Donovan's improvement in rebounding. It says a lot about, our team's ability to get turnovers. Uh, yeah. Maybe. So, like, I know that you and I were a little bit underwhelmed when we started the season. We were like, what about that defense that we were hearing so much
Yeah.
about? But, like, it's a nice reminder that, like, defense is not captured that well, really, in stats, except for like, if there's a few certain things I think that are captured well, but there's a lot of it that's not. Um, but to like see just the overall impact of like that hustle is
Yeah.
nice because the points are not as low as I think we thought they might be.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's like when you're letting when a team that we assumed was going to be bad on offense is scoring 70 points in a half multiple times, and then their opponent being not far behind, it's like, "Oh yeah, what did happen to that defense?" I actually did compare their opponents' field goal percentage and number of shots that their opponents are getting off, and their opponent field goal percentage has dipped a bit
Mm.
over the last 4 years from 49% to 47%. That's for the opponent's shooting. And their opponent's attempts have gone from 87.5 per game to 90. So only a small increase compared to the increase in the Blazers.
And that might like align with just like so some of these might be explained away by like the speed of the game picking up. I
Hmm.
think that I read that there's more possessions per game this
Yeah.
season than the previous season, which would make sense. But yeah,
Yeah.
I love the growth disparity is there.
Yes. Yes, and my point is, as Blazer fans who are have been watching one style of game for a really long time, this is a confirmation that we are watching something that is very different.
Mhm.
So what
Uh,
about
I
you? What more observations of you do you want to
I
share?
have I have one more kind of like player specific one. So this is and I like this is gonna come off in like a negative framing, but I really don't mean it this way. This has just been like something that I've noticed that when Jrue came back, Jrue was a little rusty, which is totally like understandable because he hasn't been playing with this team for a while. And watching Jrue whip passes to nobody a couple of times has reminded me of how far this team has come in the last couple of months. Like he hasn't been playing with them through some of these like quite frankly like growing pains that we've seen when they've been playing shorthanded and losing games that I think were really frustrating for them. But it's a reminder of how far they've come just even in this season. Um he's probably got to reintegrate with this team and relearn some of these guys because they have evolved their game in the time that he has been gone. And that's really exciting that we can see that amount of growth, honestly. Um, over that amount of time. And I have no like I've like I have no reservations about Jrue being able to do that. I think he will. I think that, as he gets in like more into the basketball rhythm of his life, where he's like in shape and able to play more minutes and is more integrated, like he will do exceptionally well here. But it was just like a nice reminder that there's been a ton of growth even in these like first half of the season from like where they started, and then they had all those setbacks with injuries, and then they had to like grow and figure out how to win through the injuries. Um, and so like when they're all healthy again, like and they've all had a little bit of time to play together and the chemistry is building, I was like, I'm starting to get like a little excited and I'm trying to temper that excitement because I don't want to like get too ahead of myself.
If you think about all of the things that were killing us as fans to watch, like you and me as fans, like all the things that I tweeted were like taking years off my life, how many of those things have already been cleaned up? Those passes that you were saying that were whipped out of bounds, those cross court passes that were like, ah, oh God, I hope someone's ready. Those they were doing so many like little bounce passes that were getting intercepted. Last night there were some beautiful pocket passes that were just like gorgeous. And I'm like, I do not have a problem with these anymore at all. The inbounds plays that were just like, ooh, what happened? The weird coaches challenges that were like, what are you doing? Like all these things, maybe that they're not, obviously they're not perfect. Nobody's ever going to be perfect. Just like you're never going to make every free throw. You're never going to be perfect in everything, but they have improved so much to the point that they are no longer like taking years off my life.
Yeah, and like I think that the one thing that we are seeing with this team was like at the beginning of the year it felt really raw. That you could see the kind of the vision, but it still felt really raw. You're starting to see some of the refinement, and it's not all there yet. But like that efficiency, consistency piece is kind of like I think the last great hurdle for teams that want to compete. And like we're seeing them work toward that.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
very exciting. And so again, I don't mean that as a dig on Jrue, but just a reminder of like this team has grown a lot since the last time Jrue played with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have a lot of players coming back who there's been some time and a lot of things have changed. Um, we have a couple of uh listener comments that are very closely tied to that very thing, so I
Mhm.
don't want to go too much more into it right now. But do you have any other things that you've noticed that you want to bring up?
I just have one fun more thing that I noticed that I want to bring up, which is that I feel like maybe Jerami Grant is getting into the fiber arts and doing some knitting and crocheting because he has had like a parade of hats, like knit and crochet. I think the last name was crocheted, but like previously knit hats. And I was like looking at those hats and I was like, I think those are homemade.
Well, and didn't he make like a rug? Like,
Yes.
yeah. I wonder if he's like taking like wonder if he's like hanging out at like the Multnomah Arts Center or something. Yeah, doesn't that feel like something that they would have like a like, get to know the fiber arts? I could totally see him showing up and doing all that stuff. I love
Yeah,
it.
there's a fiber arts class, like an after school club at my daughter's elementary school, and I was like, oh, maybe Jeremy Grant's just hanging out there with all the kids. Because like we also when you've seen his hats, he wears the like knit caps that are like they don't like taper at the top. He wears the knit caps that like kind of go up and then have two little like cat ears on the
That are more
top.
like two squares put together.
Yes. And I was like, oh, okay, well if this is a beginner pattern.
Yes.
And so if you're getting into knitting, like this is probably where you would start if you're going to start with a hat. So I am very curious to see if he continues to pull out more hats and if they get more complex over the season.
I love that for him and I love that for us as an observation.
Yeah, everybody recognize these hats, man. Like go like look back at the
Yeah.
last couple of games. You've seen these hats. Let us know if you see more and if you have any insider knowledge about this or insight because you're a knitter or a crocheter. I would love that because I'll say I've tried knitting a couple times. I'm terrible at it. I don't think it's for me, but other folks I know, listeners may have insight about the complexity of the patterns we're seeing.
And it makes me think that I wonder because we still have not decided what our fashion award this year is going to be on. Maybe it's hats. I don't know. I've also been thinking maybe it should just be sweatsuits because these guys are so committed to sweatsuits.
I know. Or like like slippers. Like they all
Yeah.
like everybody wears slip-on shoes now. Have you noticed that? Like they
Yeah.
either are wearing legitimate slippers. I
Hmm.
think like Donovan and Chris wear legitimate
Hmm.
slippers. And then like Drew, Denny, I think Tumani maybe they wear like the Birkenstock clog style shoes.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Nobody's wearing Crocs these days, are they?
I haven't seen Crocs, and I haven't seen Jeremy wear his like five
Toe shoes.
fingers.
Thank goodness. Maybe he heard.
Maybe he had the five fingers. He
Yes.
also had the one where it was just like the big toes
One.
separated from the
Yeah.
other toes.
Yeah. Toe shoes.
Toe
Or
shoes.
I guess they're not toe shoes. That's a different kind of shoe, but yeah, so we're still on the lookout for what we want to award our do our fashion award for. We'll see where we end up with that.
Yeah, that's right. Shall we get
Okay.
to our listener?
Yeah, let's do. I'm trying to open it up on my screen here. Give me just one sec.
So for those of you who don't know, we asked some of our listeners on Blue Sky to tell us what they're going to be watching for this on the second half of the season. We're coming up on the halfway point. It's about to be the All-Star break in a couple of weeks, and we wanted to know what you're thinking about, what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I will start with Pedro, aka Minimal Contact, who is Linzen P at Blue Sky dot social, because it's kind of related to what we were just talking about. And he says, "Yep, how the team responds as the injured players return to the lineup. How well will they play together? What the best lineups will be." And that's just like this wide open, like opportunity canvas to me, considering like what we were just talking about, the growth of like the guys who have been playing, how much they've come to learn and understand each other, and then just like the quality of the players who are coming back. And to bring it back to Jrue, I mean, I've been pretty impressed at how quickly he has seemed like, and Jerami too, how quickly they have reintegrated themselves into the rhythm of this team. And I think probably a lot of it is because they are vets. But just to take it back to our Scoot, to me that's like the really big one. But yeah, I share what Pedro says about watching to see how that happens.
Yeah, it could be really exciting. Like it could be, I was, it could be a little bit of a car crash at times, but it could also be really exciting. And I'm just happy to have something to look forward to because like I think that last year we had that little fun like win run at the end of the season, but like in the previous seasons it was like by the time we got to the spring, we were pretty worn out as fans.
Yeah, and what's not in the conversation right now is any talk about tanking and development. Like it's just gonna like they can just go as fast as they want to. That they can just do whatever they want. If they make the playoffs, great. If they don't, fine. Like we don't care at this point. What we just want to see is see the players playing. And it anyway, and to go back to what Pedro, aka Minimal Contact, said, how well they play together and what the best lineups will be. And I bet you we're gonna be having a whole conversation again on who's gonna be in the starting lineup. Remember we had that whole conversation at the beginning of the season, and then it became not a conversation at all because it was just like who's like not injured. We're gonna
Yeah.
have we're gonna have to start having that conversation again.
Yeah, and we're turning into one of those teams where like, you have enough depth where like you might stagger some of your best players into different lineups into interesting ways and I don't know. Like I'm really pleased. Like when we have Blake Wesley back and Scoot back, like we will actually have a very like fast, dynamic team. It
Mhm.
could be really, really, really fun and chaotic, but like thank God it's not boring
Yeah.
and bad.
That's actually a really great segue into Keanu Reeves' book, the only Keanu Reeves that this podcast recognizes. That's at James Gameboy on bluesky.com. And James says, now that we got Jrue and evidence of Scoot and Blake out of a boot, I'd love for the speed of the first couple months to make a comeback. You still see it on occasion because of Denny, but having that many up-tempo ball handlers would really change my life for the better. Me too.
Yes. Amen to that. And also like changing our lives for the better through basketball. Like what else could you ask for?
Yeah, I was thinking the other night when the Blazers were we talked at the beginning of this podcast about how they're learning how to close out games as well. And the thing that I always get a little bit like nervous about at the end of the games is, can they slow down enough?
Mm,
Do they remember? Because like, how many years did we watch Damian Lillard bring the ball up at the same pace all of the time? And like, uh, but we were pretty confident that he wasn't going to lose it, that he wasn't going to get trapped and have it poked out of his hand, that
yeah.
nothing bad was going to happen because of the pace. Sometimes I worry a little bit at the end of games when they do have to slow it down, like, can they without like turning it over or doing something like that, just because they are so used to that speed.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that kind of like I think iterations of that as they've like grown through some of that after Jrue was injured
Hmm.
because we saw like them trying to manage the end of a game through Denny, Tumani, like Shaedon. These guys are guys who want to run and go fast, and so like we saw some possessions where they would like turn it over or like they didn't know how to like run time off the clock and then get a good shot. They would like run time off the clock and turn it over at the end or have to take a contested two that nobody wanted. Like it's just a lot of growth. But
Yeah.
like I'm not sad to see it. Like those are the turnovers that I'm more than willing to watch happen because I know that they're for the better in terms of like the growth of this team as and their chemistry. Like we
Agreed.
remember we talked about chemistry turnovers last year or like chemistry um like bad passes that were like chemistry building.
Hmm.
I think some of this like late game stuff that we've seen that's been really frustrating to watch is also chemistry building. You know,
Hmm.
figuring out how to manage a game at the end when you don't have a point guard is still a really good skill to have, even when your point guards come back, because you just never know what the situation might call for. And if you are able to like, if you need to go big for some reason, you might be able to do it with guys who learned that skill during the lean times of point guards.
Yeah, and I would just say that agree that the Blazers have, over the last couple months gotten better at it, and I think part of it is Caleb Love's growth,
Yes.
being able to manage the end of the game when he needs to. I have a question for you inspired by this one. Who do you think is the second fastest player who's currently playing right now? So like Denny, let's say he's like the most up tempo. Who do you think would be second? Because I would say it's Scoot, but he's not playing.
Uh,
CD?
CD? CD or
Yeah.
Tumani?
I think CD too. I think I think CD.
Tumani doesn't hold the ball as much as CD does, it seems, and like so he's not able to push pace. He can like run with whatever pace is set by somebody else, but CD, I think, and Denny both set pace. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I agree with that too. I had never thought about that before.
Yeah, it's like it's a subtle difference. It's not and it's not a big I don't think it's a problem, but I just feel like those are guys who match like the two guys like Tumani and I think guys like Caleb, quite frankly, they match pace, they don't set pace. And they've been able to keep up, which is great because like you don't need everybody to be able to set the pace of the game, but you do need like to have the right personnel that can keep up with the pace of the game that the pacer is going to set.
Yeah, and I'm starting to wonder too, when Damian Lillard comes back, we are going to also need to have a team who can play a different pace as well. If
Yeah.
Damian is handling the ball and he's playing the pace that we're accustomed to him playing, I think that distinction that you just made about people who can manage pace and then people who can keep pace. I think Tumani is it's going to be really. I think it's a strong possibility that he will be able to keep up with whichever pace is
Mhm.
needed. And I don't know if every player in the NBA can be that flexible. It'll be interesting to see how that develops.
Yeah, I'm trying to really like not have expectations about the type of player Dame will be when he comes back because I don't know like when I like him playing in Milwaukee was different than him playing here. He's coming back to a different team, a different style, a different coach. I have no idea how he's going to play here. Which is sort of fun.
Hmm. I don't, I mean, like we were saying earlier, Scoot, Scoot plays fast. And
Hmm.
I don't think Damon is suddenly going to become that type of a player. So I think it's pretty safe in my mind to like assume that he's not suddenly going to be like a super fast paced push, push, push. I could be wrong. Maybe he's pushing it from like the back court way up into the front court, a different kind of pushing. But if he throws that many long court passes, I will have a heart attack. So,
We've also never seen Dame play a ton off ball,
mhm.
if I'm being totally honest. Like, and not in Portland anyway. Like, we haven't really seen him play off ball that much. And with as many ball handlers as we will eventually have on this team, like, he might get an opportunity to, like, you know, run around,
Yeah.
you
You know what
know?
I keep thinking? I keep thinking like when I see Denny getting triple teamed and when I see Shaedon getting double teamed, I think, what's it going to be like when the person that's open is Damian Lillard?
I have thought about this actually a little bit too. I've been thinking about because do you remember when we played the Rockets and Denny was getting trapped a lot? They like in that second Rockets game, they really had adjusted their strategy against us because Denny killed them in the first game. He scored
Mhm.
like 40 points and then they tried to force the ball out of his hands. And he didn't have a great first half, but then he still figured out how to play well against them in the second half and win again. But I'm very curious what happens when, the release valve on that kind of pressure is Damian Lillard or Scoot Henderson, someone with speed, someone who can shoot, someone who can punish that Steven Adams is helping off of Donovan Clingan kind of a thing. You know what I mean? Like those are the kinds of things that I was thinking about. I was like, oh, like we don't have as many tools to like deal with those traps as we will when we're healthy. And there's a lot of really creative opportunities there for different types of guys and different types of looks if you can have great shooters on the floor, have fast guys on the floor, have guys with like length and size on the floor. There's all kinds of things you can do. But ooh,
Yeah.
like when I was watching those traps, I was like, I can't wait for us to have actually like a lot of options
Yeah.
for like relieving the pressure of a trap.
Yeah, wait till Damian Lillard is the pressure valve.
Yes.
When team first of all, the teams have to decide, okay, do we guard Damian Lillard and not let the ball get into his hands, or do we throw multiple people at Denny Avdia because he is such a massive truck that we need to throw as much as we can to slow it down? First, they have to make that choice, and then they have to deal with the consequences of that
Hmm.
choice.
Yeah. I mean, we saw Houston, they were like playing in the first game at least, they were playing like the box and one on Denny, where they like you can't do that with Damian Lillard on the floor. You can't like run a like a kind of a an offense that's designed to stop a single player on the floor if someone that punishing is on the floor and can shoot threes like that. Like you can't do that.
Mhm.
Be very, very fun when they have to play multiple stars. And that's the thing that we've always, I think, wished about when we had Dame on our team was like, how do we get another star next to him after LaMarcus Aldridge was gone
Mhm.
so that like the game becomes easier? Because a lot of the points that Dame scored here were like scored the hard way.
Yeah, yeah, it was him putting the team on his back and going. Not all of them, but it certainly happened a lot. Okay, let's go to another one that's kind of along the same vein. Matokazia, Blue Sky says how the vets and the young bloods reintegrate. They will, and it will be fascinating to watch. And we've talked about them like coming back after injury, but I want to talk with this one. I want to talk about how vets and young players are playing together. Um,
Hmm.
because, you know, we wanted a young team. They blew it up, got a lot of young players, and now they've added the vets back on top, and it just seems to be going well.
Yeah, and we have vets that are knowledgeable and have a ton of experience, but they're also not like I don't want to say like I hate to bring this word back. I don't even want to say this, but I'll just say the word. They're not like they're not like alpha personalities in that like they're going to like command attention. Like I don't know, like if you brought LeBron on your team, like LeBron is like a big personality and he's going
Yeah.
to want to be the big boss. But I see the ways in which like you like look at the bench, you can see Jrue and Dame and those guys have a lot of one-on-ones with guys. You can see them like, providing feedback for guys after shifts, basically, like I would assume on things that they saw. Um, and like they do a lot of quiet leadership that still allows this team to be what it is because they're not like the focal point of these teams, but also allow their experience to kind of color the experiences of on the floor and make small improvements here and there and also offer that support to the guys who are like learning to play at this level consistently and are suddenly also being treated more seriously than quite frankly that they have been in their entire career. I was thinking about how like Denny came to us from the Washington Wizards. He played his whole NBA career there. Who was his vet in Washington? Like, you know what I mean? Like he didn't have players like this with like that are this decorated
Hmm.
to help him learn how to be the guy. And he wasn't the guy there, in Washington, he wasn't the guy. Like I don't know who the guy was, but he wasn't it if they did have a guy there. I don't know if like Jordan Poole was the guy or whoever. I don't know who's the guy there. But point being that like he came here and he's starting to become a star here and he never had the mentorship of a veteran to help him like learn how to assume that role. And I don't know if Drew's ever really been that exactly for his team, but he's been on championship teams. And Dame has definitely been that guy when like all the team strategy is planned around you.
Yeah.
And who better than to help coach a guy through learning how to manage that?
Oh, that's such a great point. That last part, especially about been the person who the team strategy is planned around you and how to handle that and react to it. Yeah, such a great point. And while you were talking, it struck me that this has been like a kind of a guard heavy discussion, partly because, we're getting a guard back and we have another guard that we really want to see back. Um, but when it comes to vets and young guys, it's interesting to me that kind of the center vet right now is the coach, you know? Because the centers, like, I mean, WAP hasn't been around that long or been on other teams and lived in other places where, or, been on in other positions on teams where he could like really be able to speak to what it's like to be the main center on a team, you
I think
know?
Rob is a little bit of a vet
Oh,
here.
yes.
Rob really plays that role.
You're
And
right.
I sort of assumed that's why they were playing him alongside Hansen in
Yeah.
that package, like that we'd get
Yeah.
that like lineup package. So that he could do, like you were pointing out, he could do for Hansen what Ed Davis used to do for Zach Collins.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. I completely forgot about Rob. Why do I always forget about him? Um,
I don't know, he's the best, but he doesn't play all the time.
yeah, maybe that's why, just because of it. But yeah, no, you're right. He totally fills that role for the centers. And I just want to acknowledge the conversation we had the other night on Blue Sky, where I was saying that like with Denny being the glue and how he was gone, and then now they needed to find some tape to hold them together, and then it turned out, at least for that game, it was Robert Williams, and you called him uh Tape Lord. Was that you who called him
No,
Tape
I
Lord? Or
didn't
was
call
that?
him
Oh
Tape
no,
Lord.
that
Somebody
was
else
no.
did.
You were the one who said that he was the tape, and then I think it was Logan who said that he was the Tape Lord, which I thought was which was brilliant. But the point being that with Denny out, Rob was able to like help direct and guide enough to hold them. I think he contributed a lot to holding them together. And yeah, so I was totally wrong about the centers not having anybody on the bench with them. Although I do also think it is worth noting that the coach was a center
Yes,
too and
for
has that
sure.
experience.
For sure. And he also knows what it's like to like I was thinking about like how when he played on the Spurs, like, he played behind legendary centers.
Yeah.
Like he had to learn to play around other guys and make the most of his minutes. And I think that there's something that's really nice about having that mentality in your coach. Like it like I feel like it would be easier to speak to those guys who have more limited roles, but their roles are just as important when you're being coached by somebody who's lived that.
Yeah. Especially considering that they took two centers 2 years in a row. And
Hmm.
I guess one of the things that kind of makes me saddest about potentially what could happen with the new owner coming in is I really have liked having Tiago Splitter on the, in that role. And I understand like we need to like have an actual search. That is very important to Blazer fans that we have an actual
Hmm.
search for a head coach. Um, but I've just really liked his presence this year. It's felt really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty, I think, about what will happen with a new ownership, but it
Mhm.
would be, I would say, like based on where our team is developmentally, I would be so surprised if they just like tore down everything, as far as like the front office and like the coaching staff, because like we've been building towards something that's finally looking like it's something for a while now, and to suddenly like pull out all the supports that helped build get us to this point feels risky.
From your mouth to God's ears. May it be, may it be so. So we have one more take from Jason Hecubus 01 on kind of slightly different topic than the other ones, and that is the things that he's going to be looking for as the season rolls on are turnovers. According to NBA stats, they rank dead last in committing them at 16.8 per game for the season. Having so many turnovers each game just makes it harder to get wins.
Whew. Yes.
Truth.
I think though, so here's my hope. Here's my hypothesis is that when you're dead last in point guard availability, you're probably going to be dead last in turnovers.
Uh, yeah, but but like point guards are usually the ones who commit the most turnovers, aren't they?
Yeah, but I'm just saying that like the guys who are like most most used to playing that role of protecting the ball
Yeah.
and suddenly like you're going to need somebody to hold the ball for all those times where point guards are normally holding your ball. Those are people who are going to commit more turnovers because that's not their usual role, is I
Hmm.
guess what I'm saying.
Yeah,
And yes,
that makes sense.
point guards commit the most turnovers, but like point guards who are like their normal role is to protect the ball are going to be better at protecting it than the guys who are like, hey, Tumani, you take a couple of possessions. Hey, like CD, you're going to play a couple possessions on the ball. Like I just my hope is that that cleans up dramatically as we have more ball handlers available.
Mhm. Yeah, I can see that. I guess my thought is that I don't think it's necessarily going to go down a lot, but also I don't really care about turnovers. Like I only not that I'm saying like what Jason said is not valid.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally, totally valid. It's just that in this point in the development, I am not as concerned about turnovers because I feel like turnovers is like one of the last things you can come polish up
Hmm.
um at the end, like when you have really high expectations. When you have high expectations, then your team should not be turning over the ball. Like when they are contending for something, they need to bring that way, way back. But just on the scale of things that I think weigh the most important for overall development, I feel like if they decided to work on turnovers for a month, they could work on turnovers for a month and they could not turn the ball over. But I fear that that might hinder them in terms of like that might slow the speed down. It might slow the ball movement down. And I feel like that's just something that they can polish up at the end, when they're making those deep playoff when they're a team that is expected to make a deep playoff run.
I mean, that kind of aligns with what you were talking about, Tiago, several episodes ago, where you talked about how he likes to do everything at full speed and let people make mistakes so that when they get to like a full speed, like the speed of the game, like they're prepared to play it at that speed rather than walk through it slowly and not make any mistakes, because that's not what the reality is for them in terms of like executing it. And so, like, maybe they're in that run and make mistakes mode, and those as they get those reps, the mistakes are fewer and fewer and fewer, and then they're able to protect the ball a little better.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I I love I don't love it, but when Donovan Clingan makes a mistake, the whole building feels it. Because
He gets so mad at himself.
he gets so mad at himself and he just takes it on. And it's like, but what we've seen is that he does not make that mistake again, or very rarely.
Yeah, I remember that game. I forget who it was against. Maybe it was the Kings. It was one of those games against the Kings where they were just like fouling him and sending him to the line because he couldn't make free throws. You could just see his like eyes like seething because he was so bad. He shot like a ton of free throws that game and he made like 50% of them. He was so mad. And I bet you that he went out there and rage shot free throws
Yeah.
at the practice facility.
Yeah, it will be. I based on what Jason said and then what you said in response, it will be a really interesting interesting thing to watch for the remainder of the season if we see a big shift in that or if they stay somewhere in that vicinity as they get their ball handlers back.
Yeah. Um, Also, like, I mean, quite frankly, like, even though we've been missing ball handlers, the group that was healthy got better at handling the ball over the course of that time where we were missing point guards. And so even when we get to another point where like some guys are maybe injured or get a little bit banged up in the second half of the season, I have to believe that it won't be quite so hard on the team because of all those skills that were gained while during this stretch where we didn't have a point guard and hopefully just more availability and more options
Yeah.
for the second half of the season.
And I think we should also mention or state that I think the Blazers actually have had a point guard for the last couple weeks, the way that Caleb has stepped into his role. I think he really has, excuse me, like I think he has played the role of a point guard. And like some people are like, he's more of a shooting guard, and like I get that. But I feel like he's sort of stepped into the void and the last couple of weeks where it's like when he's in and he has the ball because it's not often with Denny. Like often he is kind of point guarding the second unit.
Mhm.
So that there has been a point guard on the roster in a way that there wasn't like maybe a month ago, even though it was the same personnel.
Yeah, that's a great point. And like, I was thinking about how like Caleb is very obviously at least a combo guard.
Hmm.
Like CJ used to handle point guard like backup point guard duties essentially when he was playing alongside Dame, even though he was technically playing a shooting guard when Dame was on the floor. But you would have no qualms with having CJ handle the ball. And he definitely did duties when he was on our team. And I can imagine Caleb doing something similar because he seems like he's comfortable on the ball now more so than he was like 4, 6 weeks ago. And he also is really comfortable moving off the ball and looking for just like catch and shoots.
Yeah. Anthony too.
Oh, Anthony.
And yeah, it was also it was kind of nice to see CJ the other night. I was at that game. It was fun to see
Oh, can
CJ.
I just say, playing against CJ, I like there's parts of his game that I still appreciate where I'm like, oh, that's so crafty. But now that he's like playing against my team, and I'm like, oh, that was dirty crafty though.
Totally. It was just nice to have him in the building. Okay, so at the end of we're gonna get to our takes really soon, but one more thing to talk about is that at the end of the game against the Hawks, I'm sorry, I keep talking about that one. When they interviewed Jerami wrote his signature on the camera, which I still to the life of me cannot understand why that's a thing, and then wrote a little frowny face. And so the internet has been a buzz about why did Jerami Grant put a frowny face on the camera after he signed his name. Did you catch that?
I caught the frowny face because Brooke commented on it. You
Yeah,
actually couldn't see it on TV
right. You couldn't
because he
see
moved
it.
it too low, and then they showed it later when they like shot the camera with the other
Yeah.
camera. But I didn't see the discourse, I guess.
Yeah. No, I saw one uh you know theory that he was sad because he was being traded. Which whether or not I did not let's say I didn't click on that headline. But it is odd that they just won a game and then he put a little frowny face on it. And I think somebody said, maybe it wasn't him. Somebody said that like Brooke had just mentioned like being sad because she like when CJ popped into the interview, which was really cute. She was like, "Oh, I'm sad," because like she missed CJ, and
Hmm.
some thought maybe that's why. Do you have any theories about why Jerami would have put a frowny face on that camera?
I have no idea why
Yeah, I have no
Jeremy would put a
idea
frowny face on that camera. And I'm not someone who uh would probably spend a lot of time thinking about it because I do weird stuff all the time. And yeah, like
maybe he knew that after the game he was going to have to go home and rip out a whole bunch of the sweater that he's working on because he dropped a stitch like several rows back and he just wasn't looking forward to having to go back and like pick up his knitting knowing that he was going to have to like unravel a bunch of rows.
yeah. Or maybe, there could be literally anything going on in someone's life that makes them think that it's sad, and they didn't think about the fact that the entire internet's going to be theorizing what that means for your career or the direction of the basketball team. Like, it could just be about him.
But it's also weird that it was after a win.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's
well, I
true.
guess maybe we'll find out. Maybe we won't. It's another mystery to the Blazers. It's another entertaining point to this whole season that has just been full of entertainment. But I think let's wrap it up here and start with takes.
Yeah.
Do you want to
Tara,
go
it's
first?
yeah, so it's January 18th. It's around 12:40. We're gonna play again this afternoon on a back-to-back against the Kings. Um, and this is a take that actually is inspired by the Kings because as people probably read that Dennis Schroeder was suspended for 3 games because he tried to hit somebody. I guess Luka Doncic, maybe I think he tried to hit Luka Doncic like after a game. I don't know. But the point is my take is it's so nice to have a team full of guys that are like pleasant and nice and not like, not doing anything very obviously harmful to the team dynamic right now. I think that, we Blazer fans have dealt with lots of stuff like that in the past. We had that era of the jail Blazers. We've had stuff that's come up in more recent years that where players have gotten in legal trouble or maybe legal trouble after they've left the team. There's lots of things, but like right now, I feel very happy about our mellow kind of like they feel more like introverts. Introverted teams who hang out with their family and their pets. Like it's very nice to root for a team like that right now that all seem to like each other and get along and live relatively like mundane lives that don't rock the boat with the basketball team that we watch.
Yeah, as long as nobody else gets arrested
Yes,
for
yes,
gambling.
yes, except for the coach, obviously. But like the actual
Yes,
players,
no,
like,
I totally agree, get it, and I absolutely agree. It's just always so shocking to think about the fact that the coach got arrested. I like to bring that up at random points, just because it's so funny. But no, I agree. Yeah, they're a lovely. They're just seem to be like a lovely team right now. So we will
yeah,
continue.
we don't obviously know everything about them, but like from what we see of them and for how they show up in press for like, to play basketball, all of that stuff, like they all seem to be guys who want to do well here, treat each other well, and, grow as a team.
Yeah, and they, to some extent, some of them really also show a good balance that is important for like their mental health and their longevity and their long term. Like we've been talking about like all of Jeremy's different creative outlets. It's really important to have that, kind of balance. I don't know what everybody else does, but like you said, the dog content, like they have a good time with their dogs and their family, and they seem to like basketball is obviously very important, but it feels like they have kind of a good um I'll just say again, balance in their lives, which is nice.
Yeah, it's good. And, I think in an era right now where like we know more about basketball players than we ever knew about because of social media and everyone's got a camera in their pocket and whatever, as opposed to like say like the 90s Blazers or
Hmm.
something. Like these guys are still like on the up and up doing good things in our communities, treating each other well, interacting with fans really kindly. It's really nice and I'm just very excited to root for a bunch of guys like that. And they're winning.
They're almost at 500. If they win today, and I don't want to say if they win today, I don't want nothing, take nothing for granted because the Kings have been playing well lately. If they win today, they're going to be 500. When's the last time the Blazers were 500 at this point in the season? I don't even, I was like going to figure that out. I was like, no, somebody else has come up with that. Well, Tom Haberstroh can figure that out for us. That was a fun stat of the game last night about all the players that LeBron has played against. That he's played
Yes.
against what 33% of the
All
people
Blazers.
who've ever played in the league. That's
Yeah,
amazing. That's
sir.
wild.
You know what else? Oh, what else is wild to me is that LeBron is still rocking, like trying to rock a haircut.
And I think he hasn't looked in the back for a really, really long time to know that he's completely shiny in the back.
I mean, you can see his nice
Yeah.
edges in the front, but they're like barely there. You got to zoom in really
Yeah.
close to see it, and then the back is just shiny.
Yeah. Oh.
Tara,
Okay.
what's your take?
Okay, I've got two and they're both short.
Okay.
One is that folks are totally missing out I on the top Burmese samosas in the
Yes.
arena. Every time I go there, there's no line, and it blows my mind. That is some of the best food in the arena. Value wise, it's totally comparable, if not maybe even slightly better than some of the other options that are available. And I walk by there, and there are huge lines in other places, and there's never a line at Top Burmese. And I want to like stand out there with the sandwich board and tell everybody, go here. They're so good. So that's my
Oh my
first
God.
take.
Can I just add to that? So I ate a Top Burmese rice bowl at a game a couple of weeks ago. So good. First of all, so good. Second of all, it was so good that the lady next to me, like who I didn't know, and she was apparently there rooting for the other team, she was like, "Where did you get that?" And she's like, "It smells so good. I need that." Um, and just the point is like some of the best food there is like kind of underappreciated by the fans. Like, yeah, ranch pizza. You and I both know we love a good ranch pizza. It's delicious. Yes, it's worth it, but the line is long. And in terms of like line to like how good the food is, like balance,
Yeah.
can't get better than Top Burmese.
Yeah. Do yourself a favor. Go give it a try. I hope that I regret having this take. I hope that this take gets so many people going there that their lines are huge right now because it's such a good place. My other, I'm sorry, I'm sneaking in a second take, and this is a Bravo take. So if you need to like go do something else, that's totally fine. But I just want to, this is another like I feel like people are missing out on something really special. If you're listening to this and you don't like or don't want to watch the VPR reboot, I would beg you to give it a chance.
Wait,
And
what's
if
VPR?
Vanderpump Rules, they have
Okay.
completely recasted the entire thing. Everybody who was on it for the last 11 seasons is gone, and they've started over with a completely new cast. And a lot of people, especially people who are like OG VPR watchers, totally understand. I understand your reluctance to watch them. So that's why I want to give you my take. My take is it's not a Vanderpump Rules reboot. It should be it should be viewed as like Southern Hospitality LA. Southern Hospitality is a different series that is set in Charleston, and it's about a bunch of um, people working for a restaurant. This is the same thing, but if you come into it with the expectations that it's going to be Vanderpump Rules, don't do that. But go into it with an open mind and just be like, oh, this is just like Southern Hospitality, but that's the LA version instead of the Charleston version. I'm telling you, these kids are nuts and they are so entertaining. And it still has that like mixture of like funny, but also poignant. They are like, they're not living in opulence. They are barely scraping by, trying to make it in Hollywood. They all have that story going for them. It's very fun. So if you haven't watched it yet, maybe you want to wait and like binge it the whole thing when it's all over. But what I would advise you to do is don't go into it thinking you're watching Vanderpump Rules. Go into it thinking you're watching Southern Hospitality LA style. And that is my take.
Okay. Um, I have a question.
Oh, okay.
Is there people from Southern Hospitality on the new Vanderpump Rules, or is it to just the spirit of
The
it?
spirit of it. Yes.
Okay, the
Yes.
spirit of
Southern
it.
Hospitality is a spin-off of Southern Charm, just like Vanderpump Rules was a spin-off of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. But they're both about like young-ish people in the restaurant industry and all. I mean, if anybody's ever worked in a restaurant, you know how much drama is in the restaurant. And then in LA, you get the added benefit of everybody's like trying to make it as an actor or a producer or a singer or a director. They all studied film or acting or something like that. So it's very fun. But that original Vanderpump Rules cast had a lot of huge fans, deservedly so. But this is a different show. And if you approach it as it's a completely different show, I think you'll really enjoy it.
All right. That's the take.
All
I
right,
learned
we
what
did
Van
it.
I learned what VPR stands for.
Vanderpump Rules. One of these days, I'm not pushing it on you at all. But one of these days I just might get a little text going, so I started this and I have questions. And at that point I will be happy to respond. But I want to thank everybody for listening. Thanks to everybody who sent in their takes. We love hearing what's on other people's mind. And yeah, it's kind of a fun time to be a Blazer fan right now. So let's cross our fingers that that continues. You can find us at We Have a Take. I was like, where? I was going to say at VPR. You can find us at We Have a Take on Blue Sky and wherever you find your podcast. We're also on Instagram and Threads trying to get better about posting stuff there. So find us wherever you see us. Find us in if you want to say hi at games. We would love that. And yeah, for all that, thank you so much for listening and go Blazers.